Nice. I found this article somewhere, and I was wondering if anybody had opinions. Yep, I'm going here. All right. So, Dave, save us all the grief and tell us, give us the elevator version here.
Yeah, sure. Don't chase them. I'm talking to a bunch of well-experienced, seasoned SEOs, so everybody would know. The crew we're talking to here would absolutely know all of these issues, right? The trappings of trying to chase after an algorithm, getting it wrong. Drawing the wrong conclusion because you're only managing, not for those of us here, but if you're only managing one or two sites and you see a fluctuation and go, oh, it must be, all right, chances are you're wrong.
I'm gonna break this down. So define for me, what is chasing the algorithm?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I do make it really clear in the piece that you're looking at there that what I'm not talking about is paying attention to them. Yes, pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to the weather reports if you feel so inclined. Google doesn't want you to, but if you want to, go ahead. All of these things can lend insight if you're looking at a big picture. But this is more for the people who would hear about an update going on here that it has to do with backlinks, or it has to do with anchor text, or it has to do with, those sorts of things, and then running in and chasing after them. That's more what I'm talking about in the piece about, don't do that part. Don't hear about this update. Hear about what, over at Webmaster World.
The old knee-jerk reaction thing.
Yeah, well, right?
Remember Matt Cutts would say one thing and everyone would run off to their sites and start changing shit.
Well, that's it. I mean, I could have actually written, and maybe I should have included something in there, and this counts for listening to Gary or John too.
Well, of course.
Don't go chasing after them just because they say something matters. Think about it, put it into a bigger context, and if it makes sense for you, do it.
So, gotta go to you, Bill. So, Bill, for the record,
yeah,
you read patents, papers, and so forth, and you write about them because they interest you.
Yeah.
Because it's never there, because, you and I used to put disclaimers, we used to put, apparently. What would you say to people that come along and read your stuff and then go either running to you or running to the website and start making changes and this and that? Like, how do you explain that to people when you get the chance?
I have gotten a phone call from a coworker who asked me about a site of a client where the client was ranking organically really well and was also in local results with a really good rank. And the organic result just disappeared. And the local result was boosted. So the person was ranking page 1, position 1 with the local result, but the organic result they used to have was completely gone. The day before, I had written a blog post about a patent from Google that said that they would start doing that. They were adding more diversity to search results by merging organic and local results. So sometimes
Google was waiting for you to write about it to implement it.
Right. So I sent a link to the blog post I'd written the day before to my coworker and said, this explains what our client just went through. Google removed their organic result to try to add more diversity to search results. It may not be something that sticks, and Google stopped doing that about 3 months later. But looking at the patent, understanding that algorithm existed, explained a lot really quickly. Because the second I heard it, I knew what had happened. But so it does make sense to pay attention, to keep an eye on what's going on.
But I've always, you know what I mean, since I've been doing, ran across you like 2004, whatever. I've always just treat it like a sense of osmosis, that when I approach a project or whatever, this information's in my head. Is that what you're going after, Dave? Is that understanding the concept is great, but don't go running around willy-nilly. Like if Bill wrote something, let's not run over there. Because Matt Cutts said something, let's not run over there. Is that what you're trying to get at with don't chase the algorithm?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, Bill brought up an interesting point that reminded me, and I'll go back a little bit to an article that I had published earlier this year, but it has nothing to do with the fact that I published this article. Google filed for a patent a couple of years ago, just got granted last spring, guided purchasing via smartphone. And it's all about the process of being guided through a system, with questions and answers. And then lo and behold, November 30th, it comes out, Google Assistant, through basically, the TechCrunch reported on it, can help you find a plumber, right? Find me a plumber. And then it starts asking you these questions to help you sort of fine tune. That's outstanding. And I saw that right away because I'd read the patent. And as soon as it happened, I'm like, yeah, spot on. Just like Bill hit. Yep, spot on. But there's been a lot of patents I've read that have had nothing to do with anything I've seen since, right? It was a really neat read, but it didn't actually come to fruition, or certainly not in a way that I would have predicted if I just read the patent for its function. So it's exactly like that. Take all these things. Some of them are going to be spot on. Some of them won't. But if you just take all this information in, be it an update, be it something John says, be it a patent, just bring it all in as information, then you'll recognize it when you'll see it and know how to react, but, and sort of create a structure for it. But without actually going, oh, okay, I'm going to put all my eggs in that basket, right? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Some of them, like the guided purchasing via smartphone, that one just made sense, right? So it was already starting to think of ways to use that, because you could just see that is a
So one of the values I get out of reading patents is it gives me some insight into assumptions that search engineers make about the web, about searches.
Which lends itself to my own hypothesis when I see a situation.
Right.
And that's what I always try to teach people, is that same thing, dude. Is, I don't, again, how can you design a web page if you don't know HTML? How can you do SEO unless you understand information retrieval? I'm sure you can test and learn things, but to me at least, having some sort of understanding on how things work in the back end helps me with any hypothesis I have.
I've had people ask me if I have experience using certain platforms when talking about a certain project. Like a lot of nonprofit sites use a certain platform to receive donations. And often with e-commerce, there are a number of e-commerce platforms. They all work similarly, have similar features, but I tell people it's really important for me to know what's going on with the search engines. The platforms are sometimes interchangeable. I can look up a platform and I can get information about how it's supposed to work. I don't necessarily need to be an expert in a particular platform to do SEO for a site that uses it.
Right.
It's helpful, but it's more important I know how the search engines work, how they handle stuff.
To me, that even starts to go back to what we used to call future proofing, meaning if you don't know your history, it's hard to predict the future. Like, so many of these young folks, again, in these groups that are irritating the hell out of me, they're making decisions. They're making decisions based upon the most recent this or that, or what's hot or what's not. But when you're working for a client, I want to know something that I'm doing is still going to be safe and or effective, if not both, 18 months from now. You know what I mean? And again, having that knowledge of not only, history and SEO, meaning like so many of us here, like 10 plus years, but, history like Bill and I and Dave and some algorithms and Doc and Steve. And, it helps you know that with some sense of security that what I'm doing today is going to stand the test of time, that it's still going to be functional and not, dangerous down the line.
Well, I think there's another aspect to it that, adding on to that, Dave, is the fact that when we see these patents, and I don't read them, I listen to you and Bill to get the elevator pitch version. But when we see a patent generated that ends up being acted on, that also gives us some insight as to the thought processes and what they may be pursuing at Google, what they've got in mind down the road. And that's where the real wins come in, is when you can actually accurately, not accurately, but you get lucky and you can predict what Google is going to do down the road and be there first before your competition. And that can sometimes come into play and be a real gold mine.